Hello everyone, I'm Sunil. I welcome you back to my YouTube channel Tech Basics. So in the last video, we have discussed about switch case statement and we have written some programs using switch case statement. Today we'll try to understand what are the various loops that are supported by C language. So before that, let's understand what for we need to make use of this loop statement. A loop statement normally we use in any computer language in order to execute a particular statement or group of statements for a number of times. Say for example, if you want to perform a task for n number of times, instead of we doing it for n times, we will do it only for one time and we'll see that our loop statement takes care of it. So if suppose say I want to print my name along with the address for 100 number of times, I will not write or print for 100 times. Instead what I'll do is, I will print my name, I will print my address for one time and I will see that these particular statements are executed for 100 number of times. So any given task, if you want to repeat for 10 times, 100 times, 1000 times or n number of times, you can make use of a loop statement in C language. Various looping statements are available in C language and they are, you have a for loop over there, you have a while loop and then we have something called do while loop. So using these three statements, we can repeat a task for a number of times. And then if you want, we can also go for nested loops, writing a loop within another loop. So we'll try to discuss this later. First we'll try to understand what is for loop, what is the syntax of it, and then we'll try to write some example using this for loop, while loop and then do while loop. So if you go by the flowchart over here for a loop, we say the loop will start over here wherein you need to provide an initial value and then you will write some condition for that. So for example, say if you want to perform a task for 10 times, then you will start this value over here at the beginning with 1 and then you will make the value to go up to 10. What I am trying to make you understand over here is you have to take a variable. You need to see that the value of the variable starts with some given value. And from there, you can take the value to a different level. What do you call that as a condition? And if that condition happens to be true, then you are supposed to execute the code. And then once the code is executed, it will go for repetition till the condition that you have mentioned over here is false. And once the condition that you have mentioned is false, it will go and it will stop your execution. So you will start. You will apply the condition. Condition may be true, condition may be false. So if it is true, it will execute or perform the task that you have given. If it is false, it will come and stop over here. So this is how any given loop statement will execute. Let's try to understand the syntax of each one of these particular statements. So if you go for a statement or the syntax of for loop statement, so we can write it as, you can say for, you can provide some initial value and then you can write a condition, then you can write incrementation or decrementation followed by the statement or group of statements. So if over here you are going to write a single statement, then you need not to make use of these braces over here. If you are going to write here multiple statements, group of statements, then you have to make it as compound statement by writing these braces over here. So these braces are necessary when you are writing group of statements, you can call it as a compound statement. But even if you write, if there is only one statement, and even if you write these braces, you will not find or you will not get any kind of error over there. But it becomes compulsory to write this particular braces when you have group of statements over here. So now a question that arises is, why is that I need to make use of this for loop and so on? So I'll give a simple example to understand. So when you visit any temple, normally during the exams, we try to visit the temple, we'll try to pray the God, and if the examination happens to be very difficult, we'll try to make rounds of the God for more number of times and so on. So in case, say you want to make rounds of the God for 11 number of times, then what is that we do? We start counting. How do you count? You will say at the beginning 1, then you will make one round. After completion, you will say 2, you will make one round. Again, you will say 3, you will make a round. So on, you will do this. Once you reach the count equals to 11. If your count happens to be 11, then you will stop doing the round. So that is how your for loop will also execute. You will start with an initial value, you will have a condition, you will increment the value or you will decrement, and then you will perform the task. Example over here again, you can say for I equals to 1, this is what you call it as initial value, and then separated by a semicolon. As the syntax says, you need to separate by semicolon, then write the condition. The condition is I less than equal to 10. So when you say I less than equal to 10, it will check for the condition, and then you will go for incrementation or you will go for decrementation. So here I have written incrementation as I plus plus. You can write it as I plus plus or you can write it as plus plus I. What exactly we mean by I plus plus or plus plus I, will try to understand. It is as good as you writing I equal to I plus 1. So what kind of, how it is going to execute? It will start with an initial value, the value of I equals to 1. Then it will check the condition 1 is less than or equal to 10, which is true. So once the condition is true, it will execute the statements over here, and then once the statements are executed, it will then increment the value of I by 1. So this is how, and then it will go for again condition. So what I mean to say over here is I equals to 1, the initial value will only happen for one time, whereas the condition will be tested for number of times along with the increment operator and so on, and accordingly the statements are executed. I'll repeat, your initial value is 1, then it will go to check the condition 1 is less than 10, true, then it will execute the statement that we write over here, and then it will go for incrementation. So I value now becomes 2. It will again go to check the condition. 2 is less than 10, true. It will execute the statement. It will go over here to increment. I becomes 3. 3 is less than 10. It will execute the statement and then it will increment. So it will stop once the condition is false. So the condition becomes false when the value of I happens to be 11. So which means when the value of I goes from 1 to 10, your statements over here are going to get executed. So let's understand this I plus 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 I kind of operators. That is, you can call it as increment or decrement operator. So you can write here I equals to I plus 1 or I equal to I minus 1 as I plus plus R plus plus I. In the similar way, you can write I equals to I minus 1 as I minus minus, or you can write it as minus minus I. Let's try to understand and try to do some exercise on this plus plus and minus minus operator, which you call it as increment or decrement operator. Okay, then we'll try to understand I plus plus, plus plus I minus minus, minus minus I, what we call them as increment and decrement operators, how they are going to get executed, and what exactly is the difference between writing plus plus before a variable, after a variable, and so on. So for that, what I'll do is I'll take a simple example wherein I'll say the value of I equals to 100, and then I will just print over here printf I equals to %d, and I will print here plus I. Okay, very simple. I am just equating a variable. You can declare this variable as integer. You equate some value for that, any value of your choice, and try to display the value of that variable by making use of this plus operator before the variable. Then you can see the result of this. So then you will see that when you say plus I, what happens is your value of this particular variable will be incremented first, and then it will display the value. In the similar way, if you make this as I plus, then what happens? The value of I will be displayed first, and then it will be incremented. So there will be no change in the value of I. So what is the difference over here? When you say I plus, meaning of that is the value of I will be incremented, but before displaying, it will not increment. First it will display the value of I, then it will get incremented. But whereas in case of plus I, first it will increment and then it will display the value. Similarly, you can as well make use of minus. So if you go by minus, and if you write this minus before the variable, it will first decrement the value of this I by 1, and then it will display. So you will get the value for I as 99. But if I make it as I minus, then you will see that it will display the value of I first, and then it will decrement the value. So then in that case, you will see that the value of I is displayed as 100, and later it is going to get decremented. So if you want more clarity on this, what we can do is you can make use of two variables over there, I and j, and let's make the value of I equals to 100 and write j equals to plus I. So then you can see here, you try to print the value of I and value of j by using some tab in the middle, and then you can say j equals to %d double quotes comma, you can say I comma j. So now what we are doing over here, we have taken two variables I and j, and then you are initializing the value of I by 100, and you are saying j equals to plus I. So this plus is used before the variable. So what happens now? First it will increment the value of this I, and then the value is assigned to j. So what will be the value of I now? It is going to be 101, and what will be the value of j? It is going to be 101. Once again I will repeat. First it will increment the value of I. So I becomes 101, and then it will assign the value. So j also becomes 101 over here. Try to execute this. You can see this I is 101 and j is also 101. But in case if you are going to write this plus after the variable, so now what happens? First it will assign the value of I as it is, which is 100, to j, and later it will increment the value, which means what? J will be assigned with 100 only, and later I becomes 101. So you can check over here now. So your I is going to be 101, but what is assigned to j is 100, because you have written this as plus after the variable. So there is a small difference writing this plus before and after the variable, and the difference can be clearly seen when you try to assign this value to another variable. In the similar way, I can as well make use of minus. So if I now write minus I, can you tell me the result of this now? So what is that going to happen now? First the value of I is decremented, and then it will be assigned. So what will be the value of j? Yeah, so j has to be 99. I also has to be 99. So you can check that. But in case if I am going to write this as I minus, then what happens now? First the value of I is assigned to j. So j becomes 100, and what I becomes now? 99. So I is 99, j is 100. So there may be a little bit of confusion over here, but it's not difficult to remember how the variation happens when you write this minus before the variable and after the variable, plus before the variable, after the variable, and so on. So this we are going to make use of in our for loop statement. So you can write it in this fashion. For I equals to 1, I less than equal to 10, I plus plus. So you can write I plus plus over here or minus minus over here. In this case, it is not going to make any difference when you say plus plus I or I plus plus, because you are not assigning the value to anything. But in case if you assign this value as we have seen in the code, then there will be a small difference and so on. So this is what we were trying to understand, plus plus and minus minus. If the value of I is 10, you try to do this. If it is 10, you try to do this. Then you will understand what is the plus plus after a variable and plus plus before a variable. Similarly, writing minus minus after a variable and minus minus before a variable. So try to understand this and then clear the confusion if any you have over here. With this, I will stop this video over here. In the next video, we'll try to understand how to work with a while loop, do while loop, nested loops and so on. Thank you.